Welcome to my channel, where mysteries unfold, strange tales come to life, and the unexplained takes center stage. Here, we dive deep into eerie legends, unsolved cases, and supernatural phenomena that defy logic. Are you ready to step into the unknown? Brace yourself, keep an open mind, and join us as we uncover the world's greatest mysteries. Please listen to the story, The Curse of the Nightly Visitors, in South Africa, especially within the Afrikaans language community. There's this superstition that if a person is born with the sac still around them, I think they call it an amniotic sac, that you got a link with the spirit world, where you can see or experience supernatural entities, or force in some way. It was sort of frowned upon. You don't talk about this. You don't talk about seeing spirits. My mom and I were actually two in our family, born with that sort of thing. My dad passed away 8 years ago. It will be 8 years this year. My mom sold the house, and she bought a new house. What she didn't know at that point was, the lady who owned the house before her husband had cancer and passed away in the house. Not every night, but every good once in a while. She's been having what we like to call nightly visitors. The first month or so after my mom moved in, she was sleeping in her bedroom and she heard this loud noise, like there was a printer printing whatever sort of document next to her and someone typing on the keyboard. The first thought my mom had was, "Oh no, there's someone in the house. I'm going to be robbed. Something's going to happen." She turned on the light. She could still hear the noise. It was coming from inside the house. She looked around, and it's a small place, and there was nothing there. She thought, "I'm just going to go back to sleep. Maybe it's just me hallucinating. Maybe it's all the stress from the move." She goes back to sleep. She gets woken up at 3 a.m. Same thing. For the next couple of nights, it's the same story over and over again. There's these people typing on a keyboard of a computer. There's a noise of a printer. There's paper being crumpled up. General office noise. My mom got fed up with it, and she said, "What the hell is your problem? Leave me alone. Just be quiet. I want nothing to do with you." And the noise stopped. Then a few nights later, the noise picked up again. She said the same thing, "Leave me alone. I've got nothing to do with you. What is your problem?" And then a few days later, she got a call from someone who was relatively close to the family to say her husband passed away. And my mom first thought, "Oh, it's a coincidence. Maybe it's stress nightmares." Things like that. This has been going on for a few years now. Every couple of months, she will get a visitor or hear a noise or something, and the first thought is, someone is breaking in. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And then she turns on the light. She still hears the noise from inside the house. She even checked in that space between the roof. There was no one there. And then, a few days later, another family friend passed away. Someone she knows. This has been very upsetting to my mom. She was actually in tears because she can't sleep. She doesn't want to be bothered with this. While my dad was still alive, my dad was super strict. Something was either biblical or it wasn't worth it. And she didn't want to talk about it because my dad would basically emotionally break her down if she mentioned something weird like that, and they never had any real experiences. Up until my dad passed away. And it really heightened when my mom moved into that house that she has now. He was very strict in his religious beliefs. I'm not knocking religion, even though I'm not religious myself. But it's one of those things that you don't touch, it's evil. It's of the devil. You stay away from it. After that, she actually saw a full body figure of my dad. He was standing there in the doorway to the bedroom. And he said, "I'm sorry. It's my fault. You're going to be okay." Sort of that comfort he never gave. Really gave her in life. He's now trying to give her after his passing. It gets to the point where I'm also starting to dream. I've been having dreams about people who passed away, or going to pass away, but I don't know it at the time. And my mom was telling the story, and she said, "You know what? You were born with that thing around you. Maybe you can still see spirits." I dream it, she actually sees, hears and experience it physically. I see faces. I see people that I don't actually really know. I would go to my mom, and my mom said, "Oh, I had one of those noises again." People were coming into my house. They were making noise. I had to tell them to get lost. And I said, "No, I've been having a dream about this. And this person, I don't really know them." "Do you know them?" "I know it's this far-removed relative." And then a few minutes later, my mom gets a call. "Oh, this person passed away." Maybe. It's just stress for me that I'm actually seeing this, or dreaming this. I don't want anything to see something and see people. "Oh, you're gonna die." What happens if it's somebody I really care about? At night, I'm actually almost too scared to go to sleep, because I'm not worried about nightmares. I actually enjoy nightmares, strangely enough, because it gives me good short story ideas. But when I see faces of specific people, I'm just scared. I'm going to see someone I really care about. Someone I love, my wife, my son, my mom, my brother or sister. Then that means, oh my goodness, something bad's going to happen to them. A week ago, my aunt passed away from a long health battle. The night before, it was the noisiest she's ever experienced. She actually got up, moved around the house, and she was cussing out whatever was there. She was telling him, "Get the hell out. I want nothing to do with you. Leave me alone. Stop it." Normally, whatever is there would quieten down, and almost sort of that feeling of, "I'm sorry about that, I apologize. I'll leave you alone now." It carried on and on and on, until my mom yelled, so much so that the neighbor actually contacted her and asked her, "Are you okay? What's going on? Is someone inside the house? This is number..." No. I'm fine. It's just, there's this noise and it's irritating me, and it's got me worried. I thought there was someone inside my house, and then that neighbor went to the other neighbor and asked him, "Why are you making a noise?" And the neighbor said, "No, I'm not making a noise. I heard a scream, and I'm up too." And then my mom eventually had to admit to them, "Look, this is what happens. I'm seeing, I'm hearing, and it's got me freaked out, because I know my sister is sick." Then that same night, about 3 a.m., I had a dream about my aunt. My aunt and I were never very close. She always used to yell at me, call me names, things like that. But I had a dream about her too, and I thought, oh no, if she hasn't passed away, she's going to pass away, and soon. So about 7:30 that morning, I'm on my way to work and my mom phones. She said my aunt passed away, and I told her I had a dream about her, that she was yelling at me, moaning at me about something that I did as a kid, the last couple of times. My dreams and her experiences have actually synced up. I'm normally a very skeptical person, but I'm a skeptic open to the possibility of something. But it actually freaked me out. Now that what I first thought was coincidence, now I'm actually starting to think, okay, maybe there's something to it. And that's what's got me scared. I'm to the point now that I'm actually want to see a psychiatrist, or a doctor, or something that can maybe prescribe medication, that I can sleep but not dream. My mom doesn't even want to come visit my house, because now she's telling me there's something inside my house after I turn off the lights, or even with the lights on. I feel like there's someone actually watching me. I don't know who. I don't know what it could be. I don't know if they're friendly or malevolent in any way. But I just feel like there's something watching me. But I don't know what the intentions are. My mom has a theory about it herself, because she came from a very abusive childhood. Serious abuse. She thinks maybe the way she was born, and the life that she had as a child, might have made her a conduit or something, that she can actually pick up on these signals, because she was very good at sensing when abuse was about to happen, or when something bad was about to happen. She has a very, very good gut feeling. And I think since my dad passed away, since her parents have passed away years ago, that there isn't this blockage anymore. And now everything is coming to her tenfold. Lately, my mom hasn't had any visitors or noises, but she still has that fear in her, that if she hears something, oh my goodness, who's going to be next? Luckily, my son wasn't born with that. My sister and my brother weren't born with that. So it seems like my mom and I are the only two people in our family who actually sees or experiences these things. It's not fun. This is something I want no part of. And if I see or dream about somebody that I really care about, I'm too scared about what's going to happen. Like I always say to my wife, I just want peace in my life, and that's it. You can listen to these stories without ads and support her production free for 2 weeks and then $4.99 a month and cancel whenever. Just head on over to Scary Plus. Links are in the description of this episode. Up next, check out Horror Story, a podcast where I tell you about eerie, true events and mysteries. It's the one with the picture of a road and Horror Story in yellow letters. And if you have a story that you want to share with us, head on over to truescarystory.com. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story, The Yellow House. We live out in the country. It's kind of country. We have cornfields, hayfields, and cotton fields. Whenever that time comes around, it's a 2-story house. And when you walk in the back door, you have stairs that lead straight up. It's our rooms on the top, and the restroom is right by the stairway. If you walk straight, my room is right there to the left. I was asleep. It was 2:30 in the morning, somewhere around that time. I had got up to go to the restroom. I was walking, and I always look down the stairs. Why, I don't know. But I always look down the stairs. I thought I saw a shadow, but I was half asleep. So I was like, maybe I'm not seeing things right. Something's going on. There's my mind playing tricks on me. Finally squinted my eyes and looked even closer. When I did that, I saw on our staircase a big black shadow. It looked like it was about 6 foot. Real broad and shoulders kind of buff. That's how it looked. They were leaning against the stairs. Am I seeing that maybe it's just my imagination? Then I saw them walk to the side, from the side of the stairs to the front. Where you come up, I saw it start walking up, and I was like, oh my God, This is not my imagination. I ran in the restroom because I was right there. But when I finally came out of the restroom, I turned my head, looked down the stairs again. I saw the shadow walking up. I ran to my room. I closed the door. I called my husband. Can you please come home from work? I'm so scared. I saw something. Something is not right. This is not how it's supposed to be. I'm freaking out. I just need you to come home, please. Like, make sure everything's okay. When my husband came home, he said that he didn't see anything. Everything was fine. So I told my mom about it. My mom actually prayed over the house. Her and my husband felt the hair on the back of their neck stand up. They know I don't know what it is. We couldn't figure out why I would see something. My sister, her and her boyfriend at the time were having problems. They had separated. She went to go spend the night at a friend's house. That morning the friend woke up and told my sister that he had a dream. He saw this big black shadow. He described the shadow to me, and it was the exact same way. I saw the shadow here at my mom's house, coming up the stairs. How can I see the shadow? And then you see that same shadow. My sister and her ex-boyfriend at the time, they worked everything out. They were together. My sister said that she had woke up. She saw a shadow on the wall. The way she described it was the same shadow that I saw. The same shadow that her friend has saw in his dream. The only person who saw it more than once was my sister. But it was before I had saw it. She had always thought that she was just seeing things. When she had told her boyfriend about it, he goes, "Oh yeah, that's the shadow that I've seen before. That shadow has been following me for years. I don't know why." My mom prayed over everybody. She prayed over my sister's apartment. But we never saw the shadow again. But we could never figure out why. All three of us saw that shadow when it was supposed to be following the boyfriend. At the time, we didn't understand what's going on, that we've all seen it. My mom was like, maybe someone put a voodoo doll on him. That was our first instinct. Maybe someone put something on you. He's like, why? I've had it follow me for years. He's seen it for so long. He just thought it was just gonna be part of him for the rest of his life. We were freaking out. Why would this shadow follow you? And then come to the house, and someone see it in their dreams. It was just so creepy. It's so hard to even explain the feelings you feel when you see something like that. Then to have two other people see the same thing in two different places. I was scared, I want to say, for 6 months. I was scared to even look down the stairs because I was always worried that I was going to see a shadow, just that same shadow again. After that, I was like, I'm not going to look down those stairs anymore. What if I see something? I don't want to go through that again. But after those months had went by, everything was okay. Everything calmed down. No one saw the shadow again. It happened in the same house where we've seen stuff and heard things. On our cameras that we have around the house, we have them in the front, on both sides, and on the back of the house. We have a patio in the back of our house, and it's not covered, it's just a concrete patio. We have a real big bright light out there, so we can see everything, but we make sure there's no animals and stuff coming up. To the back of the house, my mom was like, "Oh, look at this video. You can see all these orbs flying around in the back of it." And I was like, "Mom, you didn't see that." She was like, "What are you talking about? See what I go, look on the shadow, and you can see. It looks like somebody's walking." You see the shadow of their legs, but you don't see nobody there. Looks like when you're walking on your driveway, and it's sunny, your shadow. All you see is your legs on the ground. That's exactly what we saw on the patio at nighttime. My tias and everybody, they're like, "Y'all's house is haunted." I don't think it's haunted, but there's stuff that's going on out here, where we live. We catch a lot of weird things here. We're kind of like, it's whatever. We've seen it, you know. We've heard it, pretty used to weird things going on. I told my mom if I see another shadow, then yeah, we're definitely out of here. Other than that, we're all used to it, seeing the orbs on the cameras and everything like that. No one scared my kids. They're not scared to be here. At a house that we lived at before, I was 4 or 5, it was 98. 99, we had lived in another 2-story house. This one was real old. The house was built in the 40s or 50s. It had a kitchen, a big dining room, a den, and then you had your living room. 2 bedrooms, and upstairs 3. Small bedrooms up there. It was this old yellow house, as we always called it, the yellow house. At first, everything was fine. Then there was one night. My mom had heard this woman screeching or yelling. She had woke up. My daddy was like, "Oh, it's just a bottle outside. The wind's probably blowing on it. Just go to bed, it'll be okay." My mom went back to sleep. Some time had went by, my daddy was at work. He worked nights, and it was me. My mom and my sister, we were all laying in bed. I was asleep, and my mom's heard the loud screeching noise again, and she turned to my sister and was like, "Did you hear that?" She goes, "Yeah, I heard it." She heard it again, but this time it was louder and even uglier than before. She grabbed me and ran out of the house, got her keys, and they went to my grandparents' house. They knocked on the door, and my grandma was like, "Mia, what's going on?" She goes, "We heard something, Mom. In the house, I'm not going back home." She goes, "Well, you must have been in a hurry. You don't have your shoes on, or you have your purse." She left as she just grabbed the keys. We're trying to get out of there. My mom had told my Thea about it. My Thea was like, "Well, sister, you need to stand your ground. You need to pray. You need to fight it. Have a spiritual battle against this spirit. Let him know that this is your house, and they're not welcome here. They need to leave you and your family alone." My mama said, "Okay." She was asleep. We were all laying down. My daddy wasn't there. He was at work again. She heard that woman yell again, doing that screeching noise. My mom got up. She said a prayer for herself. She prayed over me and my sister. She was like, "All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna fight this." She had spirit, "I don't know who you are, or what you want with me and my family, but you need to leave us alone. This is our house. You need to leave this house, and you're not gonna bother us. We are not scared of you. We are not leaving. We are protected by the blood of Jesus." My mom kept doing that. She kept saying it. She heard the lady's screeching get lower and lower, where finally it stopped completely. Some time had went by again. My daddy had woke up and he told my mom, "Do you hear that?" "I hear a woman yelling." She turned around and told my dad, "No, I don't hear anything. It's probably just a bottle outside, that the wind's blowing ominously." But after my mom had prayed, we never heard that woman yell again. My mom got curious. She worked at a diner where a lot of older people would go in the morning. She started asking them if they knew anything about her house. They said, "The house used to be where a woman would have babies at, like a ward. and it had become a funeral parlor, where we would be sitting at watching TV in the den. That's where they would go in to view the bodies at. They were like, if you hear something in the house, it wouldn't be surprising to us, due to the fact that it used to be a hospital where they would deliver babies, and then a funeral home. No telling what's probably attached to that house, or something that's not letting go for whatever reason. We were redoing the floor to figure out how old this house was. My dad had picked up a corner of the linoleum, and it was a newspaper under the floor. Like for base, we could read that. My dad actually had found an article about our house that we're living in that newspaper. I don't remember what it had said, but he told me and my sister, this should tell you how old this house is, and no telling what's happened in this house. To see that there's newspaper under the floor that they've used in place of tarp, stuff they put under for flooring, like for laminate. Our cousins, we all grew up real close together. There were always been the night at our house, but a lot of them have even said as well, they had heard things, the footsteps creaking, and my always thought was always just the old house. My dad would say, it's just the old house, babe. Don't worry about it, it's probably just the floors. As I got older, I was like, all this to floors, why are the floors making noise? You could hear footsteps in that house as well. But not long after that, we ended up moving out of the house. I kind of feel is that whatever my family has done in the past and things they've seen, I feel like sometimes we can see more of it because we have more but understanding, or we see things. I've always believed that if we do a lot of bad, that we're gonna see things or something's gonna happen, because that's what we were always taught. I've had an aunt way before I was born. She had been followed by the Latusas and everything. I had told my mom we've talked about it before. I go, I don't think we were followed by anything. I really believe that it was just the house. I said because every house that's an older house has a backstory that we don't know about, something that goes on in there that's happened that we have no idea. Some people don't even know what goes on. I said, so I'm sure things get attached in these houses, or sometimes they're wanting help, or sometimes they're just bad spirits. And we're there, and they think that we're just bothering them. That's what happened with my grandpa and two of his cousins, where he had said that. Because we were always told, like, see an owl. You don't cuss at it, like you leave it alone. You just keep walking, because you cuss at it, or you say anything, like they're gonna come and attack you. So anytime I see an owl, I'm just like, yeah, no, we're just gonna keep going. I believe that because my grandpa and our two cousins, when they were younger, they were going to a bar and they were walking and they saw this big owl. My grandpa was like, man, that's a lechucha, like passerella. Like, don't mess with it. His cousins started cussing at it in Spanish. They're like, well, you can stay out here and mess with it. We're gonna go inside. They went inside, and when they came back, his cousin was speed up. It looked like he had got into a fight. His shirt was tore up, and they asked him what happened. What was going on? We weren't even gone that long. He had said he had kept cussing at the Lacusa, and it came flying towards him, and picked him up from his shirt, and was dropping him. After that, I was like, oh yeah, they're definitely real. I see an owl, I'm never cussing at it. I'm just gonna keep walking, act like I don't see it. Everything will be okay. As I reviewed many of the stories we did this year, there was one recurring entity that kept popping up. Shadow figures? What are they? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon. See you soon. Please listen to the story Footprints and Walking in the Dark. I grew up in the Philippines. I moved to the US 13 years ago. I was around 23 when I migrated. I spent my childhood and early adulthood back home. In the Philippines, a lot of people believe in ghosts, mythical creatures, spirits. My very first memory was when I was 7 years old, when I used to live in a town called Muntinlupa City, which is in the Metro Manila area. I remember our house being huge, but as a child, everything is bigger than us. I remember having a big living room that led to the kitchen and stairs that went up to the second floor with 2 big bedrooms. My parents would sleep on their bed, and me and my 2 younger brothers. And Grandma would sleep on the floor in the same bedroom. And this is pretty much a cultural thing, where extended families could still be living with you. Most households are like this anyways. The second bedroom. We were renting it to 2 other girls, and one time one of the renters went on vacation and the renter asked me if I could sleep in their bedroom. I got so excited because I get to sleep on a bed by myself. That night I got ready for bed, and I remember I fell asleep right away. Eventually, for some reason, I woke up in the middle of the night. I know it was late because I could tell that my parents' bedroom lights were off. However, I can hear people downstairs. There was some party of some sort. I can hear someone going up and down the stairs. I can hear people talking. I can even hear music playing. I wanted to shout and call my mom, but every time I would open my mouth, there was nothing coming out. I can't even whisper. There was a coat hanger close to the door. A big hat and hoodies were hanging on the coat rack. I could see a set of ice. They don't look like normal eyes, though, as they are just red, big, bright red eyes. I was so scared. I decided to cover myself with a blanket and prayed until I fell asleep. I told my mother what happened the next day, and she believed me. She said there was a thick that night. Ethik is a bird-like creatures of death that prowl the night in search for food. So that's one of Filipino mythical creatures that we believe in. Eventually, me and my family moved out of the house and moved to another city. My parents received a piece of land from their godparents and built a small house. Next to our house is my grandparents' house, and they just started building their own house there as well. I have so many stories from this house, from the moment we moved in, as they were building my grandparents' house, and up until everything was done. Me and my family were experiencing a lot of unexplainable things. The most unforgettable one was during time when they were still building my grandparents' house. I was probably a teenager by this time, maybe around 13 or 14. I remember this was in the middle of the day. We just got done eating lunch. One of the construction workers started looking at our shoes and flip-flops right outside the door of our house. My mother was like, "What are you doing? What are you looking for?" The guy was not happy. He said that he just laid fresh cement on the stairs, and someone used the stairs and left footprints on the wet cement. My mom was not happy with that accusation, so me, my mom, and my other grandma, we went to go and check it out. When we got to my grandparents' house, we all saw little footprints on the wet cement, on the stairs. Whoever it was, whatever it was, left footprints on at least 3 to 4 steps from the second floor, where the bedrooms are down. It looked like it was coming down from the second floor. and it just gave us goosebumps. Goosebumps will crawl from the back of my neck. I think the footprints, they look like they're about the size of a year, or 2-year-old infant actual baby. We all don't know how to react. I remember my other grandma and my mom, seeing their hair standing on their arms. And the guy, the construction worker, was just laughing because, he saw the sizes of our shoes and our flip-flops. They're not. They're too big for that size of the footprints. Whatever is on the wet cement, it's just too big. Can't be ours. And plus, we know we would get in trouble. So we would not do anything like that. Maybe after a year or two, my grandparents' house was constructed. I can't remember the reason. But I spent the night at my grandma's and slept in one of my aunt's bedrooms. I remember she has a queen-size bed. My aunt's queen-size bed was next to the wall, and she slept on the side, next to the wall, while I slept on the side that was closer to the door. In the middle of that night, I felt something was slowly moving my arm. It was holding me from my wrist, and I remember feeling the thumb and the middle finger on my wrist. It slowly lifted up my arm, and I felt it, so I turned around to my other side, where my aunt was lying down, and she was just asleep. So there was no way it was her that grabbed me. I didn't think much of it. I told my mother the next day, but I don't think she believed me at the time, saying that it was just probably a dream. When my aunt, who was living in Japan, came home for a visit, I spent the night in her bedroom. And when we woke up the next morning, there were baby handprints and lip marks on the mirror. And we know it's their baby's prints, handprints and lip marks, because they're so tiny, like literally baby handprint. Same as the size, as tiny as those footprints that we saw on the cement. A little backstory. Years prior to completing the construction of the house, my aunt, who was living in Japan, she had a miscarriage. That was supposedly her first child, and we believe it might be that baby. Maybe trying to communicate, possibly looking for love, being playful and saying, "Hey, I'm still around." When she had a miscarriage, they had to put the baby in a box for maybe a week or two and left it at their house as they were trying to prepare for the funeral. For the baby, I feel like that was a mistake, because why would you just leave the baby by itself without, I don't know, I just thought that was wrong. I felt like the baby should have been put to rest as early as possible. But it's nobody's fault, it's just different. That Filipinos just handle death differently. In the Philippines, it typically takes weeks to put our dead people to rest. This upcoming story deals with another visitor at night. The story is called Walking in the Dark, and it is coming up right after this stay with us. Here it is. This is Olivia's true scary story. The house that I grew up in always consisted of myself, my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother. There wasn't really anything scary about this house. We would get the occasional movement of a glass. Sometimes you would hear things, but you never thought anything of it. You just push it off as, oh, it's nothing, not really thinking about it. Was until when I got into middle school, is when I started believing more and more that there's something other than us in this world. It was early morning. I was getting ready to go to school. My mom was getting ready to go to work. So was my aunt. My grandmother was still sleeping. Nice little October day. As I was getting ready, my mom had got me all situated and everything. And she was like, "I'm gonna go finish getting ready." She was in the other bathroom, so I was like, okay. My aunt was in her room, getting ready. Grandma was still asleep. I thought that I had heard something before, but like rustling in the living room. But I thought maybe it's just my mom. She forgot something. Or I'm hearing it come from the bathroom, 'cause I knew she was in there. And so was my hand in her room. So then all of a sudden I heard like this rustling, like pants, like jeans, and how they make those noises of that rustling sound of movement in the living room. It started right in the middle of the living room. In our living room, once you walked in the front door. It was set up as you walked in. The living room is right there as you walked in. Then you walk a little bit more too. On your right side, you come in and there's 2 rooms and a bathroom. Go the other direction on your left. You have the living room, and that was carpeted. And then, after you go past the living room, there was the linoleum floor to get into the kitchen. And then after that was the last bedroom and bathroom. So it started out in the middle of the living room. This pant sounds like rustling movement. And I even called out, and I told cause I thought it was my mom. And I was like, "You're still there, huh?" I heard nothing. The footsteps and the rustling came to the very edge of where the carbon linoleum meet. So I didn't move, 'cause I thought maybe I'll get a response. And I didn't get any kind of response whatsoever. And at this point, I'm like scared beyond compare. Like I didn't even move, 'cause I didn't move. I didn't look, 'cause I didn't want to see what I might see. Finally, I was like, okay. I'm like, I gotta go and get up, and I gotta look, and I gotta see what's going on. Who is in the living room that's playing with me? I go towards the little entryway into where the arch is, into the kitchen. I look, there's nothing. There's no one. There's nothing. My mom is still in the bathroom. My aunt is still getting ready in her room. I go sit down because I'm like, this is beyond freaky. I'm like, how? So then my mom comes and she's like, what's wrong? So I started telling her what I heard, and she's like, what? I go, yeah. I said wrestling. I even animated the noise. I said, because this is what I'm hearing. I said, but then, when I went to go look, I said, there was nothing. There's nobody. So she equally got freaked out as much as I did. My room on the doorway had those beads that everybody had at one point, because everybody thought that they were cool. I had those, and I had them on my doorway. And every time you moved or you pulled them aside, they would make that nice little sound of like beads rustling. So anytime they moved them, they would make noise at that time. I also had an inflatable chair that no matter what, that thing always deflated. No matter what I did, it always deflated. It was just one of those chairs. Every night, I would always put like my bedding on top of that chair, that inflatable chair, because I had nowhere else to put it. But I always made sure that I always moved it away from the wall, so that way it wouldn't like squink or get rubbed or anything against the wall and freak anybody out. So this one particular night, we had all gotten ready for bed and everything. My mom was the last to get ready for bed. I could see her, I could hear her and everything. And then finally she was like, night. We're all like night. Maybe 10-15 minutes later, I hear that rustling sound again, like somebody is walking. In our hall leading into our bedrooms was all carpet. You could hear it even more. And I was like, maybe it's my mom. I'm like, maybe she forgot something, or maybe she, instead of going all the way back to the other side of the house, where her bedroom was, She just needed to come back and grab water. Or something. But then I heard the beads on my doorway. Like they kind of parted, and as they parted, you can hear that beating, moving, and clinking together. It was very light, but I could still hear it. I opened one eye, 'cause I was like, really? I'm like, maybe she forgot something. I looked, and I opened my eye, and I could see 4 of the strings of beads from my doorway, swaying back and forth. I got freaked out at this point. I'm like, maybe she touched it on her way. But mind you, that was like maybe 15 minutes before. I'm like, I'm not gonna think about it. It's late. I'm just gonna go to sleep. Again, I hear rustling, like actual somebody's walking. It starts from my doorway, moves past my TV to that inflammable chair that I have. I hear somebody as if somebody sat down in this chair. As you sat down in this chair. Sometimes if you were against the wall and you, even though you were away from the wall, the way that you sat down, you would still somehow back up. So you would hear that squeaking sound of the chair, rubbing up against the wall. I'm at this point so scared out of my mind. I don't look. I don't call out. I don't do anything. I cover my head, scared as all can be, and I just leave it. So I think I must have fallen asleep. Next morning, I wake up. It's the week. It's a Saturday morning. I wake up, and as soon as I wake up, I instantly remember what I heard the night before. I'm like, I gotta check out this chair. Sure enough, it is like somebody had sat in the chair because it was pushed up against the wall, which I had known that. I hadn't pushed it against the wall the night before, and like no way could my mom have come back, touched those beads, and then left without me hearing her or seeing her. I told my mom and my aunt the next morning. They were freaked out. I was freaked out, or like, yep. Nope, we're not. And we're like, maybe because my grandfather had passed away years ago when I was the age of 2. And they have a theory, I have this theory, that maybe it was my grandfather checking on me, making sure that I was okay. Wasn't until a couple years after that, after I graduated, after I got finished with middle school, and then graduated from high school. We ended up moving to a new house, newly built, so I knew that it didn't have anything. And all of a sudden, we were all sitting there one day around the table. In our dining room table, my mom, my aunt, me, my grandmother. The doorbell rings. We look, there's nobody. But it wasn't like the hard doorbell ring as I feel like sit really super hard. Makes that really loud doorbell he knows. One of us went to go look. There is nobody there. Again. I think that it was my grandfather checking on us again, just saying, hey, I'm here. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon. See you soon. See you. Please listen to the story. There's something in the closet. I grew up in a small town called Lake Los Angeles. It's 30 minutes away from Lancaster, an hour away from Los Angeles. This house was bought by my dad. He built it up. Whatever was in that house didn't come from the land. It came from something I didn't know. The first encounters, I would be outside playing or be alone. I would hear my mom call me. I would run to her. This happened countless times. My mom would be like, no, I didn't call you. What are you talking about? I do recall the feeling of being watched, being afraid to be alone. I was really scared of being alone. Even as a toddler, as a baby, I was scared of being alone in that house. I was in 3rd grade. I was sitting down next to my bed folding my clothes. My closet was wide open. I felt something in my head was like, "Oh, look at the closet." As I turned around, my hangers start moving, like somebody is looking for clothes. I stood frozen when I could react. I ran out of my room and went to go tell my mom. My mom was like, "Oh no, you're probably just imagining things." It was probably just the AC. It was probably just the wind. But there was nothing on no fans. Nothing that could explain that. After that, I can't remember much. Just being really scared of being alone. I was really terrified of my closet. I would close my closet at night, wake up, and the part of the closet was open. It was a sliding door closet. It was open, like if somebody could peek through. I would gaslight myself. Oh, maybe I didn't close it right. But now thinking back on it, I would close my closet right, because I was very scared. I was in 4th grade when I actually started seeing whatever was in the house. My dad had an office room. Our hallway was really long. It just had doors. I was sitting there in my room watching TV. My dad was in his office earlier. I never saw him leave. But all of a sudden, I did see him walk by. I was going to ask my dad, "Hey, can I play pinball on the computer? Or go on Club Penguin?" I walked into the office. It was just pitch black. When I had just seen whatever that figure was walk into that room, that's when I was like, there's something wrong in this house. I saw that figure go into the room. Since the hallway was dark, the room was dark. I didn't make note of it. I didn't think, but as I walked up to the door was shut when I opened it. The room was completely pitch black. There was nobody in there. I ran to the garage, told my dad. My dad is a very non-believer. And he was like, "No, it's just in your head. You're watching movies," I told my mom. I feel like my mom always knew what was going on in that house. She would always try to keep it calm by telling me it was just my imagination. I continued to see shadows out of the corners of my eyes or the closet. I would hear noises in the closet, rustling, things like that. We left to Mexico for vacation, and we came back. I overheard this conversation. My uncle was telling my mom that in my room in the closet he heard voices. He heard rustling. He felt something, a very negative presence watching him. My mom was like, "Oh, it's just our sister," because her sister had passed away. My uncle was like, "No, that is not a presence of our family. That is the presence of something bad." My mom chose to blow it off. Later on, I think I was in 6th grade. I don't remember a lot of stuff. Maybe I blocked it out because I was so scared. I used to love watching a haunting. I was sitting there watching with my dog. I started hearing my dog. She was growling at the hallway. I was like, "What's wrong?" She stopped. I continued to watch TV. Then she starts barking like crazy. I looked up and I saw this tall, dark figure walk from that office room to my parents' room. My dog was going crazy, barking, barking, barking. I grabbed her and I went outside and I was like, "Hey, this is what I saw." They always wanted to tell me that's not what you saw, that it was just in my head or in my imagination. I know it was it. After that, things started to pick up a lot. I started feeling things touch me and whisper right next to me. There was this one instance. My sister had come over. She was healing the relationship with our family. I was babysitting her son. He was toddler age 2 or 3. She left him in his playpen. They had all left to Walmart. I was left alone. I was in my bedroom cleaning. getting ready for school the next day. 'Cause it's Sunday, I felt like when somebody walks behind you. But somebody small. I thought it was my nephew. I was like, oh. He climbed out of his playpen's gonna go play. Next to my closet where I have all the toys, I start hearing rustling where my backpack was. Where all the toys were, I was like, hey baby, stop doing that. It just continued. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his figure, a small little figure there. I was like, hey, you need to stop. Don't rip my stuff. I walk from my bed to where the closet is. There was nothing. I immediately ran out and went to go see where he was. He was sleeping in his playpen. I picked him up and ran outside and called my sister. Hey, you need to get home right now. I don't remember being this hysterical, but my sister said I was crying, screaming, telling her to come home. She came home as fast as she could and calmed me down. She didn't gaslight me. She knew what was going on in the house. She knew what was happening. Time goes by, we're moving out of this house. It was during recession, we were going to Mexico. I was packing my stuff. The same way my closet was open in the 3rd grade. The same everything I was doing, the same. I looked up again. My hangers were just moving. I was so mad at the circumstances of moving to a new country. I told that you need to stop. You need to leave me alone. I was so mad it just stopped. Those moving hangers just stopped. Completely stopped. It was shaking, and it stopped. Right before moving out, my mom was sitting down on the couch. We were watching novellas. I got upset at her. I left to my room and locked the door. I was sitting there writing in my diary. All of a sudden, I just feel my room shake like an earthquake. We used to have this religious figure. It was La Virgen Maria. She's holding baby Jesus. And there started rocking back and forth as soon as everything stops. I get up, run to my mom, and I'm like, hey mom, there was an earthquake. There was an earthquake. My mom just looks at me. She's like, what are you talking about? Are you okay? What's going on? I explained to her. She just was like, okay, we'll pray together. That's when my mom started really realizing that I wasn't lying. She knew the whole time. Fast forward to us being adults, living in a new house. We were all sitting down. I started telling my mom, remember when you would gaslight me so much? About this house, my sister starts laughing. They start laughing. They're like, we all experienced stuff in that house. They just wanted to protect me. Have me not be afraid. My sisters. They decided to play summoning games, mirror games, Ouija board in that room. The closet used to have mirror doors. After the seminary games, she dreamt about a demon, a presence trying to suck her into the mirror. She woke up with scratches on her cheeks. I think when my sisters played those summoning games, those mirror games, that Ouija board, they let something out. It wasn't good. I don't know if it was a demon, but it liked to mess with me. I liked to cause fear to make itself known. It was really scary. My mom, she tells me that in that room, she was never able to sleep. She felt like something was there. A negative, nasty presence watching her. My sister, when she would come over, she wouldn't sleep in there either. Everybody who stayed at that house, that was family. Not family. They always said the same thing. They heard ruffling in the closet or a voice, a really strong, negative energy watching upon them while they sleep. Whatever it was, it's still in that house right now. That house, it's alone. Nobody lives in there. There's abandoned cars there. Somebody owns it, but I don't think anybody stays or resides there anymore. I've never been back to that house. I did go back to my friend's house. He lives next door. We were waiting. I forgot before my friend was like, "Let's play Ouija board, come on. It'll be fun." I said, "Okay." "That's fine." We started to play. It's going smoothly. We look up protection. We do it in a safe way, but all of a sudden, the mood changes when my friend asks it the question, "Hey, do you know us?" It says yes. We ask it, "How long have you known us?" It doesn't reply. We asked, "Have you known us since we were kids?" Yes. I've started to feel exactly how I felt in that house. That same presence that I always felt. I don't know what it was, just a negative, dark presence. I told my friend, "We need to stop. We need to stop playing this. Whatever was in that house is channeling through your house. We need to stop." When we stopped, we closed everything, said goodbye, but I still felt very uneasy, like I was being watched, the same way I hadn't felt in a long time. My friend was like, "Oh, you're fine, you're fine." I went home that day. I still felt the same way. Lights would flicker. I don't know if it was a coincidence. I started waking up at odd times. 3 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. I started feeling scared. My friend was like, "You should go to somebody who does a cleansing." We did a cleansing. She said whatever was in that house before was trying to attach itself to me again. The curandera brujera, I don't know what to refer to her as, told me that, not to play with those things because in my family, somebody had done brujeria to my dad. Whatever was out to hurt my dad was out to hurt us. I didn't know this, my mom. She did confirm that. My grandma and my aunt would do brujeria. They would do things like that. That's what the lady ended up advising me. That's why I feel like I believe a lot in that now. So later on, my mom met the lady that rented the home. She asked my mom, was there anything? Did anybody pass away in this house? My daughters are experiencing things that we can't explain. My mom said, I would just pray and be strong with your faith. In your religion, they can't hurt you. My mom didn't tell her what happened. It is not to scare her. She had just rented out the house. She was a single mom. She was happy. I still experience paranormal things. We moved into a different house. And this one wasn't as scary. It was comforting. We moved into a house and my dad works with word a lot. He was making my mom's friends a box for her ashes. Her ashes were in our house. I remember this night. They had took my door away because I was being a bad kid. I was falling asleep. My dog was barking at the hallway. I pushed him so he would stop. I woke up, he's still doing it. I decided to cover him with the blanket. As I'm falling asleep, I felt something. Like when your mom used to wake you up to go to school. If she would touch your face to wake you up. That's what it felt like somebody was doing to me. I brushed it off. I thought it was my dog. Then I felt it again. I opened my eyes. There was nothing in the room. My dog was just sitting there frozen. I think he was scared. He was silent. I was like looking everywhere. There was nothing in the room. We say it's that person, my mom's friend, because I used to call her Grandma. I feel like in a way I was her coming to say bye. She never got to say bye to me. But that's a different experience. Not as scary as the ones in that house, where I felt things touching me or watching me. It's really scary to think. There's things out there that like to cause fear, that want to hurt you, especially when you're a child. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. Please listen to the story Bad Intentions. We lived in a neighborhood called Pilsen in Chicago. One of my aunts lived across the street, but I used to love to go over there to be with my cousins. The houses in Pilsner are really big old structures. It was an old, predominantly immigrant neighborhood, but the houses are Victorian style. They have a big living room, big dining rooms, small bedrooms, big kitchens, a lot of hidden closets, and little places where you can hide. Play hide and go seek. They had little crawl spaces in some of the closets. Those were our favorite places to play. In my cousin's house, there was a closet that had little stairs. Inside the little stairs was another little crawl space. We used to go in there and talk about the things that kids talk about, but you can hear things that were going on in the other rooms. One time, me and my cousins were playing in there, and we heard my aunts did not like him. They called him a bruto, a bad man, or a witch. My aunt had been married and loved her husband. To go with this uncle, they all said that he had practiced witchcraft on her to get her to go with him. That was unheard of at that time for someone to leave their first husband and to go with someone else. And he was much, much older than my aunt. Much older. Most of my aunts were afraid of him. My uncle, he was calling out to things. He was saying bad words, calling for revenge, and we got scared. My cousins were telling me. He sometimes does that when he gets angry at people. We're not supposed to go into his room or talk to him. We heard him stop and walk out of the room. I went into his room, into his closet. We found a little box, a little black box. Inside of it were little bottles of oils. Haircrossed is. He caught us looking in there. He yelled at his kids. "What are you doing in here? And you're never supposed to come in here." I got really scared and he told me to go home. I went home. I was really scared. My mom asked me what happened. What did you do over there?" Because my aunt called her and said that I had been misbehaving and not to come back. My mom really reprimanded me very much. I was very sorry. She told me to apologize to my aunt and uncle, which I did. I couldn't get out of my mind the stuff that happened with the closet and the things that I found. I was sitting with my dad in the kitchen. I used to wait for my dad to get home to eat with him. My dad was a very religious man. He was always in the church. He was a deacon. Every time I had a problem at school or anything, I would always see him reading his Bible. He would always say, "There's a story in the Bible about that. About bullying. If I had a problem with my brother," he would say, the story of Joseph. He had problems with his brother. He was always talking to me about the Bible. I told him what happened. He was furious, very upset. He dropped his plate of frijoles, grabbed me from my hand and started opening the door to go across the street, and grabbed me and didn't say a word. My dad knocked on their door. He confronted my uncle. He said, "I don't ever want you to expose my daughter to any of that kind of stuff. You shouldn't do that to your children either." He looked at me and didn't say anything. My dad just left and he said, "You don't ever have to be afraid to tell me anything." Like that again. After that happened, one day I was homesick from school. I heard the doorbell ring. This happened a couple of weeks later. I opened the door. It was my uncle. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. My aunt wasn't with him. I didn't know why he was there. I told my mom my uncle's here. She was surprised. Also, she said, okay, let him in. She told me to keep him in the living room. So I just stayed there with him. I didn't talk to him and put my head down. He said, come here. I didn't want to go to him. So my mom called him to have some coffee in the kitchen. Then he laughed right away. I don't know what he came to tell my mother that day. Whatever it was, it scared my mom. That same night I went to sleep. I shared a room with my little brother. Something that caught my attention. I saw a light coming in through the corner of my bedroom. As I looked up, I saw a man. He had an old chauffeur kind of uniform on, and he had dark glasses on. His skin was really pale. I could just see his hand. His hand had a black ring on it. I could see the buttons of his jacket. He was looking at me. His face was so pale. His lips were blackish. He looked at me, and he had the dark glasses. I could see he was looking straight at me. He just stayed there, staring, peeking. I just froze, and I tried to pretend that it was a dream. I know I saw him. I kept closing my eyes and opening them up again. He was still there. He pointing at me and nodding, yes. I let out a scream and called for my mom. My mom came into the room and said, what's going on? I said, I saw this man. It's like, oh, you're just dreaming, don't worry. You did something you shouldn't have done. And now you're feeling bad. That's why you can't sleep. She stayed with me and she prayed with me. I went to sleep when she was next to me. I was very rattled for the next few days. Another night I was asleep. I heard a thump right in front of my bed. A big thump. I opened my eyes and I saw, like a cane that looked like a rain cane. A cane that makes the sound of rain. It was being held by a woman in a dark dress. There was a little girl with her that had sunken eyes. She had blondish hair. The little girl was so sad. She was being held by the wrist by this woman. The other hand she had on that cane. She looked at me, and she thumped again real hard on the floor. I knew she wanted me to get up. She was staring down at me. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. She thumped again. I knew that I had to get up. I sat up in my bed, and she moved out of my way, towards the door to go out into the dining room. As I looked at her, she looked back at me like, are you coming? I got up. I started to follow them into the living room. I don't know why I started to follow them. I knew I had to. I knew I did. I walked into the parlor. What looked like a parlor. The whole living room was different. We had a fireplace. A real fireplace, and in the home, my mom always put a chair there because the cold air would come into the house from the chimney. The chair wasn't there. There was a fire actually going in the fireplace. There were all these people sitting in the living room, looking at me. There was that man. He was dressed in that same chauffeur outfit, with his cap on the dark glasses. He started walking towards me. I saw the room. I was just amazed at the room. The furniture was different. The curtains. Everything was different, except that there was a picture of my mom and dad. I looked at it. Was my mom and dad's wedding picture. It's a black and white picture. And as I looked at it, it crashed down on the floor. Everything stopped. And I was standing in that dark living room, I was weeping and wailing. This time, my dad came into the... I was like, what is going on? What are you doing? I said, Dad. And I explained to him what had just happened. He just told me that everything was going to be okay. Nothing was going to happen. He believed me. Then my mom came and said, I think she's just making things up. My dad said, no, I do believe. My daughter, leave her alone. I was crying. I went back into the room. I couldn't get that out of my mind. Margarita's story continues right after this. Stay with us. Through the weeks, the teachers started to send notes home to my parents, saying what was wrong with me. My grades were dropping. There was a lot of arguing in the house. My mom and dad were fighting all the time. One of the arguments started to stem up because my uncle would no longer let my aunt come to visit. Our house and I was not allowed to go over there. I told one of my aunts what was going on, and she came and talked to me, and she said, I know what's going on. I know he's a brujo. What you have is something called Sosto. He scared you. He scared you. And you can't be afraid of those things. You can't give that power. You have to trust that all is going to be okay. There is always a power bigger than anything bad. For everything that is bad, if you believe in bad, you have to believe in good. She told me the next time that woman came, or anybody came into my room, to tell them to go away, that you are not going with them, that you are protected. Do not allow them to take you anywhere. The next time it happened. A few days later, I saw the man again. This time, he put his hand out like, you're coming with me. I said, no, I'm not going with you. I started to yell loud. And no, I'm not going. I thought I was talking. But I wasn't. I couldn't talk. But in my mind, I was saying, I'm not going with you. I'm not going. I was terrified of him. He started to walk towards me. At that time, my brother started to rumble in his sleep. I moved from my bed to his side of the bed. I lied down next to my brother and started to hug my brother. I closed my eyes. I said, I'm not going. I'm not going. I started hearing the thumping from the woman. I couldn't look. I kept saying, I'm not going. It seemed endless, but it finally stopped. It stopped, I felt like. There was clean air. I felt it leave. I felt the chills, the darkness, the dampy smell, because it came with a musty kind of smell, like wet dirt, but with garbage. It's a smell you can't ever forget, the musky, dirty smell of earth. And it was gone. I didn't smell it anymore. Weeks later, the arguing between my parents settled down. Things started going back to normal in our house. They would greet each other. They would start laughing together. We started being our regular family again. It was at that time that my uncle and aunt decided to move back to Puerto Rico. They decided they were going to pick up and take the kids back to Puerto Rico. But before that happened, my aunt got very sick. She had to be put in a home. She had a series of strokes. And my uncle left her to live in Puerto Rico. After that, we heard stories about him joining some kind of church and getting arrested for hurting children. Eventually, my aunt and him divorced. We heard nothing from him again. My other cousins had run-ins with him. He died a terrible death as well. He caught, gangrene. He died in prison for whatever it was that he did in Puerto Rico. I can't really say I just know. That was something against a child in a church. He was accused and found guilty. In Puerto Rico, he was a chauffeur, but I think it was in another aspect of him. Because he was a chauffeur in Puerto Rico, he used to drive a taxi or drive people. I do know that. He used to work for a rich family in Puerto Rico. Driving them around, I found that out much later. But that would make sense why I saw him like that. None of them want to see him at the end. They're all good people to this day. I adore my cousins. They grew up to be wonderful, wonderful people. They remembered their father with love. But not many of our other relatives agree with that. My aunt tells me how brave I was to be able to confront him. And that's a lesson I've learned. I have to always face my fears with courage. Years later, I would talk to my brother about this. I was telling him, I used to be really scared in that house. He said, "Oh yeah, the lady with the cane, right?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I remember when she used to come into our room and try to take you away." I said, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" He said, "Because I didn't want her to take me. I'd rather her try to take you than to take me." He validated it for me, my brother told me. No matter where I am, I will always protect you. My brother died in 2020 from COVID. I still feel him around me. Sometimes when I'm scared or feeling lonely, I'll feel his presence around me, and I know that he's close. I've also learned now that there are some things that are always good here. And in the afterlife, you can embrace those. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. Please listen to the story Chased by Spirits, my family's paranormal encounter. I grew up in this really tiny town called Cleveland, Utah. The house was known as the very first post office in this really small town when Utah was founded. It was so old that when we did some renovations on the house, we would cut into it and see that it was logs on the inside. That's how old it was. It was an old log post office. My mom and dad decided to create a bedroom in the attic space upstairs. They cut a hole in the ceiling and built these really rickety, steep kind of stairs that went up into this little attic space. The top right corner of the room would be where the stairs would come up, right at the top of those stairs. In the bottom right corner was my bed, up against the wall, right in that corner, right there across the room. In the bottom left corner would be my sister's bed, and then in the top left corner was my brother's bed. I used to see this really dark shadow every night. I would wake up in the middle of the night. Somebody was in the room with me watching me. I would open my eyes, and there would be this dark shadow standing over by my brother's bed. Staring down at him, it was the shape of a man, but it was just a really dark shadow. That would stand there. It would move from my brother's bed, and it would just float across the room, standing over the top of my sister's bed watching her. If I felt myself waking up, I would keep my eyes closed and wait for my brother to move, or wait for my sister to move, and then I would open my eyes. Then he would be standing right by me, staring down at me, watching me sleep. I was so scared I would take all of my stuffed animals, put them all the way around me, and then I'd take the biggest stuffed animal that I had, and I put it right over the top of me and tuck it in to make it look like. The stuffed animal is the one sleeping in the bed. I think around in my teenage years, we moved out of that house, and I didn't have any other experiences growing up until later in life when I met my husband. We had all of our kids at that time, and he was stationed in the Air Force, and he got deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. He got deployed to Korea for a year. One of the funny things about me and my husband, we were really into the TV show Ghost Hunters. There was this one episode where they went to the Stanley Hotel. It's the actual hotel that Stephen King himself was staying in when he had those experiences. That scared him so much that he wrote the book, The Shining. This hotel is over 100 years old in Estes Park, Colorado. It's gorgeous. On this episode, they decide that they're going to split up into these separate rooms in the hotel that are known for the most paranormal activity. In the hotel, one of them is on the 4th floor, room 412. Back to me and my husband. My husband is deployed to Iraq. I want to surprise him with something. Just pretty cool for him coming home. He's been gone for 6 months. I decided I was going to book us a stay at the Stanley Hotel so that we can go investigate ghosts. I decided to book that exact room 412. We drive to the Stanley, and you walk into this hotel, and there's this big staircase. It goes up the center, and then it splits off to the right and the left, on both sides, and you can go up to the other rooms. Next to the staircase, it has this really awesome, super old elevator, that is, one of those metal elevators that you have to close the gate on. Old, rickety, and really loud. We get our key for the room, so we get in the elevator and we go upstairs. Step off the elevator, and the room that is haunted is right next to that elevator. We get in the room and go check out the closet. This closet is 100 years old, full hard wood. It's got one of those really old doorknobs on it that are really hard to turn. It's super heavy. On the back side of the closet is that elevator. We check that out. We check the room out. It was really pretty. It had a really old bathroom in it, the really super old Victorian sink with on the inside. We decided to go get some dinner and walk around the hotel for the rest of the evening until bedtime. So nothing happened to us that night. When we were walking around checking out the hotel, and we took the tour, the tour guide was this really cool old guy that had actually done the tour for Ghost Hunters. When they came, he was their tour guide. We noticed that on our tour. The guy goes right up to the room we're staying in, stood outside of the door, and sit there and tell the stories about what happens in there, how people have lost things. Me and my husband are just sitting there thinking, yeah, we're staying in this room tonight. We even told the people that were on the tour with us. We're like, yeah, this is our room. We're going to stay in there. You guys want to look in there? And they were all pretty excited to go in and check out the room. And we ended the tour and went to eat dinner. And then we went back up to the room. And it was time for bed. We decided that we were going to go and take a shower. Together, we're in the bathroom, talking about how nothing's happened to us. It doesn't seem very creepy. There was 3 bulbs in this one light fixture above the bathroom sink. As soon as we were talking about this happening, the light bulbs all shattered. We got out of the shower and called downstairs. I told the lady at the desk what had happened. She said that they were going to send somebody up to come and take care of it. Things like that happen all the time in that room. I just don't know what could have caused that. They came up, they cleaned it up, they left the room, and me and my husband get into bed. And we're laying there, and I'm trying to go to sleep. This bed is facing the closet. So if you're sitting up in bed, you're looking right at the closet. I get this really dark, heavy feeling. There is something in this room. I open my eyes. I look up. Right above the bed is a fan. A ceiling fan? And right next to the ceiling fan, there is this woman floating there. She had a really long, dark hair. I'm looking at her. I start grabbing my husband's arm, shaking him, and I'm like, "Honey, do you see her? She's right there." And I'm hyperventilating. He wakes up, sits right up, and he's like, "Where? Where?" And I'm like, "She's right there in front of us." At that point, she starts moving towards me. And I take a breath and I'm like, "Hi." She stops, tips her head sideways. We laid down to go back to sleep, and I could not go to sleep. The morning after, we went downstairs to go tell the people that I had an experience. There's a tour guide there. And I tell her what had happened to me last night. And she kind of just, "Yeah, that happens all the time." It seemed like she didn't believe me, didn't take me seriously. We decided we were going to go look around the town and check out the hotel more. It's pretty big. It's got a few outbuildings too. We spent the day just being tourists. We get back to the hotel. My husband decides what he's going to do. He grabs this little L, no smoking sign that is sitting on top of the dresser, and he's going to put it right in front of the closet door. Slide it right under it just in case something happens. We go to sleep, and nothing else happens that night. The next morning, the closet door is closed, but the little LS sign was out in the middle of the floor. I'm feeling really uneasy about staying in this hotel and room because we had one more night there. I call my mom. I'm bawling. I don't want to stay here. And my husband's being a sweetheart, sitting there telling me it's going to be okay. We just got one more night. Let's just stay here. And I said, "Okay, we'll just stay because it was paid for that night." Actually, nothing happened to us. We just woke up and left to go back home. I would absolutely stay at the Stanley Hotel again. The hotel was beautiful. The food was amazing. From their little old-fashioned restaurant. And the rooms were really comfortable. Really scary, but really comfortable. I would not stay on the 4th floor again. Not at all, not in any of the rooms on the 4th floor. Forget it. Throughout our marriage, we have had quite a few paranormal, inexplicable things that have happened. After we went and stayed at the Stanley Hotel, we had moved out of the house that we were staying. At the time, we moved on to base housing at Hill Air Force Base. Cabinet doors would open and close. You would hear whispers or voices throughout the house. When I was in my room laying on the bed, I would be reading, and right above the book, I would see this little boy's head just quickly dash past the bottom of the bed. One other instance. Me and my husband were laying in our bed watching TV. All of a sudden, all of the stuff that was in there, our bathroom, fell off of the shelves into the bathtub. Another time that I was laying in bed, all of a sudden, I felt these little steps stepping next to me, from my feet all the way up to my head. And I turned and I looked, and there was nothing there. We decided that we wanted to name this little ghost. And I'm like, how about we name him Billy? At that exact same time, my husband said that in his head popped the name Billy. After this house, we had moved off a base. It was Halloween, and we felt this ghost presence had followed us. Because same thing started happening in this other house. I took my kids to go see my mom for Halloween. While we were there, I was on the phone talking to my husband, and all of a sudden he says, there was a little boy that just ran across the floor, down the bed, out of the corner of my eye. The kid ran across the room. We're sitting there talking about it, and then all of a sudden you hear in the living room the sound of one of my Halloween decorations go off. this Halloween decoration. It was broken, the motion active part of it was busted, and it was an old gravestone that would crack open and scream at you. The only way for it to go off was for somebody to push it. We moved to Montana. We had a bunch of things happen in that house. My children saw these things. My son Lincoln, he is very sensitive. A couple of days ago, I was in my room. My son's girlfriend. I was going to show her something on my phone. I was walking down my hallway, passing the kitchen, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my son standing in the kitchen. In front of the sink, his back was to me. I thought, okay, I'm going to go show Lincoln first. When I turned to look into the kitchen, he's not there. He is not there. There is nobody there. He comes walking in through the family room. In the back door, I explained to him. This ghost, or mimic, or whatever this was, looked just like him. I have no idea what that was. But it scared the crap out of me. That's the first time something's happened to me, personally, in this house. I'm hoping nothing else happens here. I'm almost over the whole ghost thing. Haha, balding. We have had other situations where we would be sitting out on the porch. We live up in Willow, Alaska. It's a really tiny town in the middle of the forest. We have neighbors that aren't very close to us. We would be sitting out on the porch, and you would hear strange howls, moans, and growls over in that forest. Over there, across the lake, we're avid hunters. We know what it sounds like when a moose is in heat. Just doesn't sound anything like that. Me and my son and his friends, we always talk about shapeshifters up here all the time. Skinwalkers is a big deal in Alaska. A skinwalker can take certain forms of people or things. I don't know if it could have possibly been something like that. I can't tell you. I really have no idea what it could possibly have been. I don't know if it's the places that we've lived in, or if it's because my side of the family, is so sensitive to ghosts, or if it's Lincoln himself. If he attracts these things coming to us everywhere that we've been, in all of the houses that we've lived in. I haven't really been very scared, even though we've had these experiences happen to us. Every time I'm thinking that we're in a new place, it's going to be great. There's nothing going to happen. Then something happens. You can share your story with us over at True, Scary Storycom, and to listen without ads, and support the show at the same time. Visit scaryplus.com if you're following the show. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Everyone, see you soon. Everyone, please listen to the story. A Townhouse Terror. The Night I Faced the Unseen. My story takes place in Alberta, Canada. I was raised here, but I was born in Mexico. And my parents moved us up here when I was 6 years old. In Mexico, we grew up hearing lots of stories from relatives and my own parents about paranormal activity. They had experienced themselves, or weird phenomena that they just couldn't explain. It wasn't odd for me to acknowledge and accept that there were things beyond my understanding within that realm. When I was 21, I was living with some roommates in an old townhouse. My roommates and I rarely got to see each other. All at the same time, we worked very different schedules. We would usually see each other on the way in or out of the house. The house itself was probably built in the 70s or 80s. It was quite old. You could hear creaking all the time. If anyone walked up and down the stairs, you could hear it very clearly. Even walking into the kitchen, you could hear. I was just getting ready for bed. I went upstairs to my room. They didn't have curtains for my window. I would just close the blinds at nighttime, and I would still get a lot of light, from street lights or even the moonlight. I had placed my bed right underneath the window. It was just the darkest spot in the room, where I slept comfortably. On this night, I was really struggling to fall asleep when I heard the front door of the house open. I heard steps come up. Then my door rattled. I'm thinking, oh, one of my silly roommates has come home drunk and thinks that this is their room. I lived with two guys, and they were very protective of me. I was like their little sister. The rattling on the doorknob stopped, and I heard the footsteps go back downstairs and out the door. I just didn't really think anything else of it and kept trying to fall asleep. 10 minutes later, someone is behind me. That pressure you feel on a bed or on the mattress when someone is leaning in. I had that feeling behind me. My thought was, oh, one of my roommates is checking up on me. And as I'm waking up, a bit more out of that weird daze you're in, right before you fall asleep, I realized my bedroom door is locked. I'm sleeping on my side. My back is towards the wall where the window is. I opened my eyes. I knew something was wrong. I shouldn't be able to feel anything behind me. When I opened my eyes, the light in the room started to disappear, as if someone was pulling a curtain over my window. This light was just disappearing. From the corner of my eye, I could see something at the end of my bed. I just grabbed whatever courage I had in that moment. I looked over at the edge of my bed was a large, dark figure. I could see the silhouette, but it couldn't quite make out if it was a person. Just a dark figure. The only distinct feature was red glowing eyes. I couldn't move. I just laid there staring at this thing in front of me. It launched right at me. It came so close, it was almost right in front of my face, hovering above me. It leaned in just a bit more. Then it growled. A deep growl. I don't even know if I could imitate it. It didn't sound natural. Right after it did that, it started to disappear. It was evaporating before my eyes, when it was fully out of sight. All the light in my room came back in. I instantly sat up and I thought, oh my goodness. What just happened? I thought. You need to call Mom. She'll know what to do. I grabbed my phone. I called my mom. She goes, okay, what you need to do right now is hang up the phone and start praying. For protection, for guidance, just keep praying. Start singing whatever church songs that you remember. But you need to do that right now. Whatever that was might not be in sight, but something could be lingering, and you need to bring some good energy into the room. I said, okay, I will. So hung up immediately. Started praying out loud as much as I could, because my voice was so shaky. I was crying. I started singing. I couldn't get past the one song that I kept singing. I just kept singing it over, and I couldn't think of any other song. My mind went blank afterward. I just was stuck on this one song. A few days later, my roommates and I just happened all to be home at the same time. I said, hey, did anyone come home around 3 the other night and come upstairs and accidentally try and get into my room and left again? They were like, they weren't home at all nights. I wish I could say that I knew what it was, just so I could make sense of it. I don't know if I'll ever really know what it was that I faced that day. The women in my family particularly. Something is always testing us. So maybe this was my moment where evil forces or entities were, testing me to see if I would show fear or if I would face it. Like my mom has faced a lot of things. She has seen dark figures, big wolves. My aunt has also seen spirits. My grandma, my cousins. We've all seen or dreamt or felt something, and I'm glad. That was a lesson my mom instilled in us. Was you don't show fear. Don't let them see that face of fear. It doesn't matter even if you are scared. You cannot show them fear because that's how they win. Something else did come to mind that I wanted to share, because it's so common for, like, our family to talk about this stuff. We grew up being really close friends to a family that lives on a reserve near us. The husband is a chief, the wife is an elder. They're well respected in their community. They're the ones who taught me how to do blessings on myself with sage, and how to bless my home, and how to protect myself from energies with the teachings of the indigenous, which I profoundly respect. Their teachings mean a lot to me, and learning all that has really made a difference for me, even if you don't really know how to do it. The way they are trying to show you, you still have full power within yourself to cast things away or request that the good energies and the healing spirits, good spirits, bring light into your life. People think that they're completely helpless without these extra instruments, but we have all the power. We're the ones with flesh and bone. Like, these are just spirits and entities trying to get their way with us, however they can. But we're the ones with the real control. I've embraced that part of my life. And I have no problem with calling myself a bruja. In my own way, I am. My grandma and great-grandmother on my father's side considered themselves white witches. My great-grandma was on her deathbed. She was so scared she kept saying, "They're coming for me. I don't want to die. They're coming for me." She asked the grandkids to go get my dad. My dad was the only one who was religious. She said, "Go get Alejandro. I need him to come give me a blessing, because I'm so scared." She hated religion, but she was so scared on her deathbed that she called for my dad to come bless her. She says she's a white witch, but who knows what she dabbled in. You shouldn't be that scared when you're dying. She was doing other stuff for sure. Sometimes we go into this gray area, but convince ourselves that we're still in the white. I remember my dad telling us that his grandma would practice. White magic people would come for her for like healings, love spells and stuff. Love spells is not white magic. You're interfering with people's will. That's not white. That's not pure. Life is a delicate balance, and when you start messing with certain things, go out of balance. And I feel like that's when things go sideways, and people end up with illnesses or money troubles, and it's not even always by their own hand. Someone they have like Rugeria put on them. So there's just an imbalance in energy, and that's when things go wrong. White witches, those with knowledge and power to help others with supernatural means, may not always be who they say they are. Do you have any experiences with brujos? Brujas or white witches? Black magic. How'd it go? Tell me about it. You can find my contact info and ways to join our community by using the links in the description of this episode. And if you want to listen without ads while supporting the show, you can try out Scary Plus if you have a story that you want to share with all of us. Visit truescarystory.com. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you. Please listen to the story, A Bad Feeling. It was on July of 1987. I lived in the Pacific Northwest. It was during the summer. So it's really hot. It was July. It's really humid where I lived at the time. And it was about 12. I was on summer break alone. So I was alone in the house. They knew it was going to be really hot, so I wanted to make sure. All the doors and windows were closed because we didn't have air conditioning. My grandpa, who was in the hospital in California at that time, but they said he was pretty stable. My Nana, who's his wife, my grandmother, she was at home. She wasn't going to visit in the hospital that day. My uncle was over taking care of her. It was in the morning too, but it was already starting to get warm out. I started doing my chores, the dishes, when then I started vacuuming. And then I felt this really sharp tap, like someone poking on my back. I felt it a few times, and I was home alone in the house. I don't have any siblings. I turned around, and there was no one there. There was no one else in the house. The living room got really cold. All of a sudden, I had a really bad feeling. So I turned off the vacuum, and then I went. I just went outside for a little bit to warm up, and I did not vacuum the rest of the day. The run at same time in California is around 10:30. My Nana got a really bad feeling, and she went straight back to the hospital. She told me that when she got there. She took my grandfather's hands, and he opened his eyes. And then he passed away. It happened at the same time that I got tapped on the shoulder, because I remember them telling me it was around 11. I looked at the clock at our house, and it was 11 too. My mom got home, and she said, "I have to tell you something." And she was pretty sad, but I already knew. I don't know how, but I just knew what she was going to tell me. I didn't vacuum for a long time after that. I'm in my 40s now, and even when I'm vacuuming in my house by myself, I leave a door open even if it's snowing here. I'm so still terrified. Like 30 years later that this is going to happen again. My Nana said that she felt for the next year or so that, and my grandfather would send her messages, but no one in my family believed her, because I just thought, she's just the grieving widow and making stuff up. But then in this time, it's a couple years later in like 1989, my Nana was going to go visit my great aunt, who was in San Francisco. She was getting in the car, and she said, my grandpa spoke to her and told her not to go. She got out of the car and she called my great aunt. And they said, they calculated that the time it would have happened, she would have been on the bridge. And the time it collapsed, I don't know if you ever knew that, about the Bay Bridge collapsing. It was just toppled down onto another layer of the bridge, and hundreds of people died. It's really tragic. As with most of our calls go, I asked Tara if she had any more experiences, and she thought of one more. Here it is. My friend's friends got in 7th grade. It was summer. Got like a Ouija board, which my mom always told me, do not mess with those. Do not bring it in my house. I wasn't going to bring it in the house. But I went over to a friend of a friend's house. There's this girl, and she was just a little off. There was just something weird about her. But my best friend was with me, and it was daytime. I figured it would be okay. So we went over to her house, and we started playing with it. She started asking it questions. What's your name? Are you from here? Are you a bad spirit? And it said yes. So I was done at that point. I was like, okay, we should stop fighting like this. But she wanted to keep going, which was a little unnerving. So then she just kept asking it questions. Then my other friend was like, okay, we just need to stop this now, because we're inviting something bad into the house. We stopped, and we said goodbye. And then all the magnets on her fridge flew off the fridge to the other side of the house. I've never seen anything like. It was terrifying, and the house got really cold. We got up and pretty much ran out of the house, and I never played with her again. I think she disappeared a couple years later. She just stopped coming to school, but yeah, just a really bad vibe for her. Don't leave just yet, since today's stories are short. I am publishing 3 in total. Have you listened to them yet? They're up and available now as separate episodes. Also remember, you can share your own story with me over on True, scarystory.com, for your chance to have it featured. On an upcoming episode to listen ad-free, try out Scary Plus over on scaryplus.com. Completely free for 14 days, and then $4.99 a month, and you can cancel whenever you want. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story Ghosts of the Beach House: A Family's Encounter. Growing up, I had a lot of paranormal experiences. They were super subtle sensitivity to energies, noticing things in the home, hearing things when I was growing up in Fredericksburg, Virginia, if you're unfamiliar with the place. There was a lot of battles that happened. In Fredericksburg, Virginia, there's a lot of paranormal activity. They do a lot of Civil War, Revolutionary War reenactment. My grandfather was a home inspector. He would take me on a lot of his home inspections, and he would tell me scary stories about the property. We would hear footsteps, and one time he was in a foyer of an old colonial home. A pot flew across. A lot of the times his equipment was moved. One time I was with him, we came back inside the house. I looked down on the floor. The door was open. There was 2 muddy handprints, and 1 muddy footprint for about 6 or 7 steps, as if somebody was crawling, because they didn't have a leg anymore. All of this was fun, and games for me, until I had the experience I'm about to tell you about. It happened a couple of years ago, in a different location, Topsail Island, North Carolina. Topsail Island, it was a massive hub for pirates. People think that they can still see Blackbeard's ship on the horizon. People also think that it might be the last resting place of Blackbeard's treasures. Topsail Island has a significant amount of energy. I had none of this information. When my family booked a vacation in Topsail, they were renting the beach house. When my family booked this vacation, I did travel all the way from Pennsylvania. Down to Topsail, I was already pretty tired. The drive was a couple of hours. For 6, I think my boyfriend at the time. He picked me up, drove me all the way down. I slept a little bit in the car, but I was still really, really groggy. When I arrived at the beach house, it was not scary at all. It was a white house on stilts. The area surrounding was very swampy, but nothing that alerted me to anything. It was about 2-ish o'clock in the morning. I had just woken up. I was super groggy. I wasn't aware of what was going on. I'm locked on the door. My grandfather. He opened up the door. They both were whispering. They were tired. No one else was in the house. We said our greetings. It was cordial. Come in, okay? Thank you. Let's go to bed. My grandparents requested that my boyfriend and I sleep in separate rooms. They pointed me to the back room where I would sleep. It was through the kitchen. His room was closer to the front entrance and had a loft bedroom upstairs. I remember going into that room and feeling the heaviest weight I have ever felt in my entire life. This should have sent off some sort of ringer in my head, but it didn't. I was so tired. It was this really dense, thick smog kind of feeling. The feeling that hits you in the center of your chest, on your back, on your shoulders. I completely ignored it and I had no other thoughts in my mind. Just unpack your stuff and get to bed. And I was unpacking these. These thoughts were not my own. I felt the energy of my past relatives. My great-grandmother was there. My great-grandfather was there. My great-aunt, they were there to protect me, to take care of me, and I just ignored it. I picked the bed, and that was closest to the back patio. I fell asleep. Enough time had passed. We are creeping into the 3 o'clock hour. We are creeping into the witching hour. I don't even know how long I was asleep. I was woken up by a pressing into the bed. I was not shook. I was not nudged. Nothing fell. I was pressed. Like somebody had put their hands on either side of my chest and pressed me into the bed. It was constant. It was rhythmic and very heavy. I could feel the sides of the pillow curl around my head. My head was being pressed into the bed. Of the pillow was touching the sides of my face. I've had sleep paralysis before. This is not sleep paralysis. I was hit with that overwhelming feeling. My relatives are there. It was a chatter. It was very noisy in my head. I remember being unable to move. I opened my eyes. It was an operation. 6 inches from my face, it was the blackest black, but also had outlines I could tell was a woman. Her eyes were sunken in. They were pitch black. Her hair was floating. It was gray. It was coming out at all ends like Medusa, like she was in water. Her mouth was open like a snarl, latching onto somebody wide open. Her teeth were all sharp. She had white markings on her face, 2 that were going vertical, 1 on her forehead to her hairline, 1 down her chin, and 2 horizontal on the sides of her cheeks, as if somebody had put their fingers in paint and smeared them across their cheeks. This encounter seemed to go on forever. It felt like time had stopped. I was absolutely paralyzed. I remember sitting there in complete and utter fear, staring at this figure. I remember feeling like my breath was taken out of my chest. She was pulling it from me. I remember trying to scream and not being able to. I knew that. My own essence was starting to get compromised. All of a sudden, at once, I remembered that what you do in these moments is you remind the entity that you are the one that's alive. I shut my eyes and I started screaming. I'm alive, you are not. I'm here, you're not wanted here. All the while, I felt like my family was there. They were fighting this with me. It was completely chaotic and not of my own imagination. Suddenly, she was gone. The chatter stopped. The pressing stopped. I could breathe again. I could talk again. I ran into my boyfriend's room at the time. I remember saying to him, I either had a very vivid dream or I just saw a ghost. He had also had his own apparition that he experienced at a different time and a different location, and he went, oh, okay. Well, let's go to bed. I remember going to bed that night and not believing it. The next morning I woke up and I told my family. I was very vague about it. They joked about it and went, oh, maybe it's haunted. And I was like, okay, maybe, and we moved on with our day. They didn't take me seriously at all. Even though my grandfather had had experiences in his past, as well as my grandmother. She even captured an apparition in Fredericksburg with her camera sitting in a pew. My family is relatively sensitive, but we have never dabbled with anything that was dark, deliberately messing with us in any way. We went out. learned all about the pirates and tops and everything. That night, we as a family were playing Monopoly. The kitchen table was right next to my bedroom door. It was just fine. We had lots of laughs. And my grandmother said, "Okay, I'm gonna go to bed," and my boyfriend was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna go to bed. It's just my grandfather and I in the kitchen." Cleaning up the board. He goes to my door. He stops and he stares. He looks back at me and says, "You're right. The pressure changes at night," and I went, "Okay. Well, I'm not gonna spend the night there. I'm not gonna sleep in that room. Never again." He went, "I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I don't blame you." And I spent the night within my boyfriend's room. Who had a twin bed? It wasn't an ideal situation. The next morning I wake up, and I hear my grandmother from the top of the stairs say in almost a joking way, "Baka saw the ghost." And Baka is the name that I call my grandfather. I went, "What?" She was joking. But my grandfather, he was really shaken. He comes downstairs. He says at about 3 a.m, he was woken up by being pressed into the bed. This is a detail that I did not tell him. When he woke up, he kept his eyes closed and he turned over to my grandmother, who was to his right. He said annoyingly, "Pat, why? Why are you waking me up? She's still kind of asleep." "Doug, I'm not doing that." In that moment, he hears his wife's voice next to him. He opens his eyes. He sees a tall, black, shadowy figure in a top hat, sitting in the chair at the foot of the bed. He said to her then, "Who is sitting in that chair?" When she woke up, he turned to her. It was gone. I decided to sleep in the same room as my grandmother. I remember having the light on the whole time and having this unmistakable pressure surrounding me, constantly like chatter in my head, static around me. The energy was off, and my eyes were fixated on the foot of the bed. The moment that 3 a.m. passed, I turned over, looked at the clock, and I think it was 3:05, 3:10. Suddenly I was able to fall asleep. We told the owners of this house what had happened. They said, "Oh, you've never had any ghost encounters before." So I put it to bed, whatever that was. That was very much real. It became my ghost story. During COVID, I was flipping through some streaming service. There was some documentary style on sleep paralysis. They showed a picture of a sleep paralysis demon. Called the Old Hag. It was an artistic rendering, I think done over 100 years ago, and I froze. It's exactly what I had seen that night. There are other renderings of the old tag. That didn't quite fit the bill, but this one did. The sunken black eyes, the open mouth, the vampiric teeth, the floating gray hair, and the pressing on the chest, and it sent shivers up and down my spine. I found out that there are predominantly 2 sleep paralysis demons that have been known throughout centuries, throughout millennia, and across the world. Everybody's stories are exactly the same. It is pressing into the bed, stolen breath, something staring at you. The old hag sits on your chest, and the other one is called the Shadow Man. Shadow Man stands at the foot of your bed. He's oftentimes seen wearing a top hat. Putting this together, I realized I had seen the old hag, and the following night, my grandfather had seen the Shadow Man. We had no previous experience or knowledge of this. We were just 2 people that have had paranormal experiences before. Maybe these demons latched onto us that night because we were open. I have made certain that I am not as vulnerable as I was. That night, I found out that some people have had recurring visits from these demons, and it often happens because they are so vulnerable. I don't know if it was just age, but I have been way more receptive to the paranormal. I can see things, apparitions, and Elisa's story continues right after this. Stay with us. My ex-partner I was living with a couple of years ago, he was a big skeptic when I told him this. He would shrug it off. One night, I was really trying to understand, what is this? Is this something that I have now? What is this? I was woken up by him screaming in bed, shrieking. I turn over, I see him. He pushed himself up on the bed, trying to get away from something. He was staring at the door. He told me I saw a tall, black, shadowy figure standing in the doorway with a hat on. I don't know if he experienced the shadow man at that one point, but ever since then, he's only had brief experiences with hearing his grandfather, his grandmother. One time he saw his grandfather in a car door, but he's really had nothing significant since then. There was an apparition attached to an old, vintage vanity of mine that I've had for years. It was an elderly woman. This person was in my house at the same time. We looked up and he went, "It's a woman. Older woman, tall." I went, "White hair, Victorian." He went, "Yes. She's good, though she's just lost." I have actually been able to help a friend who lost her husband, unfortunately, to suicide. This was completely unintentional. I was chatting with her at a pool party. She started opening up to me, and suddenly her past husband was there. I was able to tell her things about him that she had not told me. I knew where he was touching her and how he was touching her. She started breaking down and crying. I don't know if that experience with that demon changed something in me that made me more open. But you bet I sage my house every day. I don't ever sleep on my back anymore. I just don't want to recreate that night. But it does seem that once these sleep demons enter your life, you become a little bit more attuned to the paranormal, I guess. Just had a lot of significant encounters since then. I used to live by an old iron mill, and I watched my dog get spooked by something, and at the same time I felt that pressure. The other night, I watched my other dog alert to the corner of a room where we have kind of an altar for my deceased dog that just passed. I watched him stare in that corner and alert to it, try to smell the air, and once again, I felt that pressure, but it was positive. When it passed over me, I felt a wind on my face. I just have a lot of these experiences nowadays, that it seems kind of normal. That veil has been thinned in a way. Still to this day, I haven't had any more encounters with her. I don't want to have any more encounters with her. Maybe I wasn't the right kind of energy she wanted to feed off of. People will chalk it up to, "Oh, you were sleeping," and if you do some research on it, people don't actually know what sleep paralysis is. They don't understand why it happens. If someone has experienced sleep paralysis before, they know that it's completely different than being manipulated and seeing a demon. That was very different. I don't know if I can find that picture, but if you Google old hag demon, somebody put this depiction in a nurse's outfit. It's like blue-purple colored is the hue of the painting, just the way that her mouth is open and her hair is standing on end, and how she's touching whomever she's sitting on. It's very similar to what I experienced. I don't know the origin. We have all of our theories on what demons could be. My personal theory is that demons are spirits that are stuck, that have been stuck for so many years. They become poltergeist and become demons. That's just my personal theory, whoever the old hag and the shadow man are. They are ancient. They are millennia old. If you do some digging, you can find that there are encounters that people have had that are centuries old all across the globe. For me, that just validates it even further. Have you ever experienced sleep paralysis? Let me know in the comments or through Instagram. I'll leave my contact information in the description of this episode. I'm on there as Edwin Cove. That's EDWINCOV. And if you have a story that you want to share, head on over to True Scary Story. Communications subscribers, I'll talk to you in the next episode. And thank you, everyone that has tried Scary Plus over on Scary Plus. I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. See you soon. See you soon. Please listen to the story, The Convent. I was born and raised in Croatia. I spent 25 years there before I decided to pursue my dreams in Ireland. When I was little, 5 or 6 years old, I was watching the show on the telly and I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. One day I'm going to be here. I'm going to live in this beautiful country. 8 years and 2 months approximately. I'm living in Ireland. I manifested pretty well. I moved into an old convent and an orphanage, dating back from 1807. The complex consisted of the 3 big buildings, with the church attached to a kitchen and the living room. The original rooms were slightly renovated, but became a hostel student accommodation. It's really hard to find a decent apartment or house to rent, so I was really grateful to have a place to stay. The convent had around 30 rooms. Some of them were single bedrooms. Some were double bedrooms. We had 2 kitchens, 1 living room, a billiard piano room, and a couple of bathrooms. It was a decent site for all of the residents. People were staying there from all around the world. I was lucky enough to get a small, private single bedroom in the convent. My bedroom was a small rectangular shape room, perfect for 1 person as you would enter the room. You had the sink on your left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, there was a single bed. Right beside the sink was a wardrobe. There was an attached desk for like a study or whatever. At the bottom of the room was a window. The doors and the window faced to each other. After 1 month into my stay, I got a job as a waitress in an old pub and restaurant in the city center. This pub was built back in 1886. It used to be a morgue in the basement where we kept beer barrels, spirit bottles, some cleaning stuff, extra chairs. This pub was known to be haunted. I never experienced anything paranormal. In the basement, you could feel very heavy air. It was very uneasy and unsettling to be there. I was avoiding going downstairs unless it was necessary. Other staff experienced empty glasses dropping from the shelves. Stuff moving around, light was flickering. I never seen anything. I was always wondering, was it something that followed me home? My first encounter in the convent was 6 months into my stay. I was walking down the hallway. The hallways was really dark and the light was dimmed. I was always afraid to walk through that hallway. I always tended to run as fast as I can to the kitchen. One evening, I was heading to the kitchen. I was on my phone messaging my friend if she is around, so we can have a dinner together. The moment I lift my head up from the screen, I've seen a dark shadow at the end of the hallway, leading to the kitchen. The figure was looking just like my friend. My friend was a petite girl. She was 5'1" and had dark, curly hair, and the shadow was looking exactly like her. I thought, here is my friend. She is just trying to scare me. She must have seen my message and trying to scare me in the kitchen. I sneaked to the kitchen, opened the door trying to scare her. She wasn't there. It was a pitch-black kitchen. No one was around. I rang her phone and I was like, "Are you around, number? I'm not home. I left 2 hours ago." I didn't know what to do. I ran straight to the hallway, into my bedroom, and locked the doors. A couple of months after, I was sleeping in my room facing the wall in the middle of the night. I heard noises talking behind my back, a murmuring sound in the language, which I couldn't understand. As I turned myself towards my sink, I saw a tall black figure standing beside my bed, looking directly at my direction, with the glowing blue eyes, murmuring sounds. I turned back. I said, "What do you want from me?" The figure just disappeared like a puff in the air, gone. I turned back to sleep. Maybe I was just dreaming. But in the morning I woke up. As I stand up and I've seen some sort of black, shadowy thingy on the floor. I can't think now what would be like. But like an eyeshadow, the black, glowing thing. I was so scared. I remembered the dream or whatever that was. I went to the closest church, which was just across the convent. I got myself a little bit of holy water, and I bleached the entire floor. If I just do that, say some prayers and chanting, this is going to disappear. After that encounter, it didn't happen for about a year later. I met a guy we start dating, his third or fourth visit that he came into the convent to mine. We just fell asleep around midnight. Not long after we fall asleep, something like a footstep sound woke me up. Something was pacing around the bed, up and down. Up and down, I sat on the bed. I was looking towards the window. It was a pitch black in the room. I didn't see anything. As I sat on the bed, the footsteps immediately stopped. I was like, okay, maybe it could be a rat or something. I laid back and tried to sleep. Minutes gone by, I heard the steps again. I sat on my bed again. The steps stopped. I shake my partner hand. I was like, Can you hear that noise I keep hearing? Someone is walking around the bed. He says, yes. I can hear the sounds, but I'm just pretending that I don't, because I'm very scared at the moment. I was like, oh my God, can you just open the light to see what's going on? The moment the light shines the bedroom, my hanging clothes rack beside my window falls on the floor like something grabbed it, pull it down with the force. This rock was screwed in the wall with the screwdriver. It was hanging on the hook. We saw that rock falling down. I didn't see anything, he didn't see anything, but you could feel that something grabbed. I was keep trying that close every single day. I was there for like 2 years in that comment. I was using that clothing rack every single day. I've never seen that force. That could actually fell on the ground. Something grabbed it and pull it with the force. That, how it looks like I start screaming. What is going on? I was crying hysterically. You could see on his face that he was really, really scared as well. But we just went back to bed. I didn't know what to do. It was the middle of the night. I look up my phone. It was 1:30 in the morning. I was staying on my phone the rest of the night, searching for available rooms to rent, and just keep praying for that thing to leave the room. We couldn't fall back to sleep that night. The morning came, and we bolted around 7 a.m. to grab a coffee. I stayed in my apartment for about 3 to 4 days before I got the courage to come back to that room. I did eventually, moved to another free room with another friend of mine, about 6 months before I move out completely of the convent and find a proper apartment for myself. Everything stopped right after, about 6 months after I moved to another apartment. And luckily, I never had any experiences like this anymore. I never mentioned this to, the landlord or the manager of that convent, or even the guards. I mentioned this to my friends. They thought that I'm just going crazy. They didn't believe me. I never say this story to anyone in particular. All that happenings was from 2015 to 2017. I moved in Ireland in 2015, 2017 I moved out. Today there is no more convent. It's the residence buildings. They build up in that area where the convent was. I would love to see a person, and would love to hear the stories. If anyone has experienced anything, I'm pretty sure they did, because you could feel the air. You could feel the heaviness of the air going around those hallways. And it was just maybe the old walls. The walls were really thick. There were 200 years old buildings. If the walls could talk, that's all I can say. I do hope I will never find out. If that was something that followed me from the pub, where I used to work, or maybe was just an orphan child who was just having a fun with me, tell a friend. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story Rental House of Horrors. We were going to an event in Oregon to see my family. My mom had booked this Airbnb. We ended up getting there at nighttime. My mom and her best friend. When they got to the house, there was smoke coming out of the ground. Like if you were to have a fire pit, you would see the smoke. But there was no fire pit. It was smoke coming out of the ground. They don't know how it got there. They would pour water on it, and it wouldn't go away. My mom called the fire department. They checked on it, but by the time they came, it was out. It wasn't there anymore. It was a weird house. It was remodeled. It looks like they stuck 2 houses together. There was 2 kitchens, a bedroom on the opposite side of where we stayed. But what was really creepy was all the wallpaper in the house. Every door had a different priest name. Every single door. It felt like you were being watched. Like something was just right behind you, trying to shake it off. There was a lot of people in the house as well. So we go into our room on the left side of the room. I noticed there was a cabinet. It was covered by the roof. When they remodeled the house, it looks like they just cut that cabinet off. The cabinet was locked, and it gave me the creepiest vibes ever. I remember telling my mom, when we first came in the house, that I felt really weird and sick to my stomach. My mom felt it too. You could feel the house was off. It felt unsettling, like something was wrong. But you didn't know what was wrong. The first night when we went to sleep, my sister was acting weird, and she normally sleepwalks. That's a normal thing for her. She got up in the middle of the night. When I woke up the next morning, I was the first one up in the house. It felt like someone was staring at me. I noticed the sliding glass door to the backyard. It was just open. There were leaves all over the kitchen, and trailed into the bedroom that my sister was staying in. I remember just following, the leaves and being really confused, because it was 6, 7 in the morning. No one else was up. I closed the door and I locked it. I went over to my sister. I saw that there was leaves in her blanket and hair. When she woke up, I asked her what happened. Why are there leaves all in your blanket and your hair? Why are there leaves in the kitchen? Why is the door open? She said, I don't know. I woke up out in the woods last night. I think I slept walk. My sister said she felt super creeped out when she came to out in the woods. She was freaked out quite a bit. My mom was freaked out because she went out there by herself, and she doesn't know why she went out there. And I said, I told you I felt something creepy about this house when everybody found out. She went into the woods in the middle of the night, alone. Everyone was very shocked. We had been drinking the night before, so we just thought possibly it was that. She wasn't drinking that much. They were going to stay one more night. But I was going home because I had to work. But it was the last night. I had all my sisters in the room, and my mom. We were all like sitting in their room. My mom was sitting on one bed. I was sitting on the other. My sister was in the corner. My sister had her dog right next to her. He doesn't normally bark at random things. If he barks, it's because someone's at the door. Or he'll see somebody near the house and he'll bark. Then, we were all talking in the room, catching up. I was going to leave that next morning. We were talking about something that our emotions were going like. We were talking about an emotional topic. You could feel the density of the room get thicker. The energy in the room was changed. My sister's dog started whining, growling and staring in the corner of the room, by my mom's side of her bed. That's where, like, their bathroom was, too. He was growling at something. We could not see in the corner of the room. There was nothing there. He wasn't calming down. He was freaked out. I have never seen him like that. Bo the dog. I think my sister left him in the Airbnb alone. She had the screen door open to the sliding glass door. When we got home, Bo had ran through the screen door to get out the house. He was sitting in the backyard. He didn't want to go inside the house. My little sister was trying to get him back in the Airbnb. He didn't want to go. That was a very big indication that what I was feeling, it wasn't anything that I was imagining. We had to coax him back into the house. But he didn't want to go. He looked like he was in trouble. His tail was between his legs. His ears were back. He kept staying right behind my sister. My sister would go to the next room. He would immediately be right behind her. The dog happened the night before I left. I had gone home that next day. They all stayed another night. My mom called me the next morning. She sounded stressed out. She didn't sound like her normal self. She said, "Something really freaked me out in the house last night. You're gonna think I'm crazy." I was like, "No, I don't think I'm gonna think you're crazy. Just tell me what happened." She said they were all sleeping. She woke up. She thought my little sister was on her side of the bed. Standing next to her, she said, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" The lady was dressed in a nightgown. An old nightgown. She thought it was my little sister. Until it turned around. The ghost lunged at her. She started screaming, "Go away. Go away. Go away." She was petrified, my mom. Her voice was so shaky when she described this to me. My sisters all confirmed that, yeah, Mom was screaming bloody murder. In the middle of the night, she said she saw a ghost and it freaked her out. The next day when they went to leave the Airbnb, my mom talked to the cleaners. She was asking her, "Something feels really off about the house. Do you feel it? I might be crazy." but my whole family has felt it, and we've stayed here for the weekend. The cleaning lady said we do not stay past sunset. We clean the house before it gets dark, and then we leave. We will not be at the house at nighttime. They said things would happen to them. She didn't like the energy of the house. She would put something on the counter. She would go back, and it wouldn't be there. It would be in a different spot. She thought that there was something evil in that house. She also said when it starts to get dark, she feels the energy in the house changes, and that she is being watched, whether it's daytime or nighttime. I definitely felt that in the house. No matter what time it was, if I was there alone, it felt like someone was with me. I knew it was just me and the dog in the house. It was just that eerie feeling that you got, like you were being watched. I can't remember the history completely, but I remember my mom looking it up and saying, it used to be an old school, and that's why there's priest names on the door. I was so creeped out by the thought of that. I was very happy to leave that house. Every time we go to Oregon, we joke about, let's never get an Airbnb like that. Please, the Airbnb from hell. I mean, it's not your house. You are in a new area. Maybe you don't live in that area. Which of course we didn't. It was just something had happened in this house. We don't know the complete story. We do know that it was remodeled. That looked like two separate houses that they put together and put a new kitchen in the middle, or a dining room, so like, get me out of this house. We have many more stories on the podcast, so remember to follow True Scary Story. And if you want to listen to my other shows, click the link in the description of this episode if you have a story to share. Find me on truescarystory.com and fill out the form. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Please listen to the story, The Girl with Black Hair. My story begins after my parents' divorce. They wanted to co-parent and live in the same house. They decided to move to a new city in Valencia, Venezuela around 2006. 2007, we finally settled in this house. That was really close to my new school. This house was inside a gated neighborhood. Our house was the last one on the street and had a koi pond, a huge tree in the entrance that made the house look more shaded. It was a big, one-story house with 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Right when we came inside, the house gave me a really weird, creepy vibe. My room was next to my dad's bathroom and bedroom. My dad's bathroom had a big, cool shower that had glass doors. There was no roof, only a mesh roof. But a still rainwater and small leaves will get inside. Sometimes I really like taking showers there. I had to get inside my dad's room to use the bathroom, and I always felt like there was a really welcoming, bad vibe in his room. It was always the coldest room in the whole house. I didn't like being in his room because of that. I used to enter and leave in a rush every time I use his bathroom. When we moved, we had some boxes and things in the studio go missing. My mom couldn't find an error again. My mom and my siblings started seeing black shadows. In different parts of the house, we always have the feeling of being watched, and an unwelcome feeling. There was this day, I was in the studio using the computer. You could see the studio through a window. In the living room, my brother was in the living room when he saw a man behind me, watching what I was doing. One afternoon, I was in my room, doing my homework and listening to music. Suddenly, I heard someone pounding with their face on my window. Really hard. I was really scared. I was frozen for a moment, until I thought maybe someone was breaking into the house It had happened before I opened the window, but I didn't see anything. I decided to look in the backyard, since you could see the backyard from my window. I saw a woman running really fast to her right. She had long hair. She was wearing a long dress. She was translucent. There was this time that I was checking myself in the mirror instead of seeing my reflection. I saw someone else. It quickly disappeared. I stay in the house while my mom went out for groceries. I was doing my homework, and suddenly I felt someone watching me. The air felt heavy. I got really scared. But I call my mom when I call her. Someone growled really close to me. I ran and waited outside my house until my mom arrived. Another time I was in my mom's room, when suddenly I had chills on my whole body, and I felt someone scratch my arm. I experienced a lot of sleep paralysis in this house. My sister also had a few experiences in this house. She was in her room with her family dog when he started growling and barking. My sister saw a girl with black hair and white dress walking around and disappeared quickly. During a thunderstorm on this day, my sister was in the bathroom, and when she stepped out, lightning struck nearby. The lights dimmed, and when it came back, she saw the air again. There was a fire that occurred once. For some unknown reason, luckily, a gardener and other neighbors helped, taking the fire down. After all these occurrences, we had a friend whose aunt read tarot cards. I was really skeptical when she read mine. She said there was an evil entity sent from an ex-girlfriend of my dad. She was a Santara. She sent evil spirits to keep us away from my dad because she was jealous of my mom, my sister and I relationship. And there was one spirit that was in love with my dad. They also mentioned that I had a third eye, and I was able to feel more of these paranormal activities. A few months later, we have to move out because our lease had ended. We moved to a new house, which was a relief, but things didn't stop. My mom was in the kitchen. She saw this girl with black hair and white long dress. She thought it was me, and she was asking her to put away the groceries. But she ignored her and then disappeared. I was always a target when I was doing my homework. This time, the girl walked in the hallway in front of my room and quickly disappeared again. It's another time that I was really upset. I was ripping some old pictures, and I was going to harm myself with a small scissor. I went through depression and had a tendency to self-harm. During these years, I had it on my table, the seizure, but suddenly it moved away and it fell on the ground. It was really strange, because I thought, did I move it by accident? But it was not in the edge of the table. I didn't feel anything strange, but I don't know, maybe somebody was trying to protect me, or maybe something was just there, tried to do something and just fell. After these things stopped happening, my dad, he just didn't believe us, and he thinks that we were just crazy. My mom, she really thinks something. What's going on in the house? And she had her experiences. Not as much as me and my sister. We're like the ones that had more things. My family, they all believe that something was going on in that house. I talked to a friend. He was a neighbor in that first house. He says there was something going on in the house, but they didn't know what happened. The owners of the house, they sell it to for a cooking class. That didn't work after they did a clandestine casino. Now it's a restaurant. Up next, if you want to listen to even more ghost stories, check out our other show hosted by Michelle. The cover looks like a newspaper clipping, Real callers and very creepy. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon. Please listen to the story, Don't Look Out Toward the Fields, a Paranormal. I am originally from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. It's right on the Texas-Mexico border. The experience that I had that really got me into the paranormal was an evening at an aunt and uncle's house. It's built on top of these cinder blocks. It's a lifted wooden house. I grew up in a house like that too. We would always joke when it's cold outside. It's colder inside when it's hot outside. It's hotter inside. You can hear everything that's happening, just the way that those houses were built. Everything echoed. Growing up, we had barbecues all the time. There was always a carne asada happening. It seemed to rotate whose family was going to stay. When the barbecue ended, one evening, that was my family. It was my parents and myself. The barbecues ended. Everybody's gone except for my aunt and my uncle, my parents and myself. I was very young, maybe 6th grade or junior high. We were sitting in their kitchen. To paint that for you, if you can imagine it, the back of their house, there was a door to the backyard. Above the sink, there was a window where you could see what we call Monty. You could say it was like brush. Just trees and bushes and stuff. That's how the whole Rio Grande Valley is. It's a very agricultural area in the state. Imagine this house, sitting in the middle of all this empty land, with just fields and Montes surrounding it. It was at night. My aunt starts telling my parents how she's worried. Because her sons are out, she's worried for their safety. Just general mother things. My parents try to calm her down, and they try to tell her you've raised good kids. Your sons have good heads on their shoulders. They have cell phones now. Not to age myself. People were just starting to get their own cell phones. My mom said they'll be fine. They're not going to drink and drive. And if they need help, they have our numbers. We can go pick them up or something. Mythia says I'm not worried about what they're doing. Out there, I know that they're fine. I know they're responsible. I'm worried about what happens when they try to come home. We're all very confused by this. 'Cause what does that mean? My parents ask her, what's going on when they're trying to get home? Mythia starts telling us the last couple times that her boys have gone out. When they get home, they will either tell their parents, or their parents would be awake. They would all experience it together. Just strange things would happen. They would hear voices or noises. When Matilda, she would stay up washing dishes late, looking out that back window into the Monte. She could see shadows at night. When they'd go to check, there would be nobody there. Nobody would have reason to be out there. Again, it's in the middle of all this field land and stuff. There's no roads that go into that neighborhood. Just weird things started happening at night. As they're telling us this, we're sitting in their kitchen. It's a long table. My parents are on one side. My aunt and my uncle are on the other side. I'm at the head of the table. Opposite of me is their back door. She's telling us this, and in the middle of her, explaining these strange occurrences, that back door that I have a direct line of sight to starts shaking violently. The handle is metal, and it's jiggling like someone's trying to open it. And the door is being pulled back and forth in this wooden house. You could feel the whole room shaking. Everybody froze and was staring at the door. There is this 3-liter of soda next to me on the table, and I slowly pushed it in front of my face to hide myself from this door. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I had never really seen anything like that before. I don't know why I thought this would protect me. We're all frozen for a minute. And my uncle? He gets up. He's grumbling something under his breath. He goes to the door and he rips it open. There's nothing there. We're all even more silent. If that could happen. I'm petrified at this point. He says it was a dog. It was probably a dog just messing with the door. I saw when he opened the door. I couldn't look away even though I wanted to. And there was nothing there. I saw that there was nothing there. He closes the door and he sits back down. My aunt, she starts getting scared again. She says, "You see, that's what I'm talking about. I feel like there's something on this land. There's something out there. And I'm worried that something's going to happen to the boys when they try to get home later." Again, as she's trying to explain this to us, the door starts shaking again, even harder this time. This entire time I couldn't move. I was frozen. I wanted to run to a different part of the house, but I was just scared to move again. This door is shaking violently back and forth. The handle, you can hear the metal jingling. My uncle gets up again, opens the door. This time, we see a dog. But the dog is running up to the door. It wasn't already there. He said, "It's the dog." It's the dog throws the dog a scrap of leftover meat, closes the door, but I'm thinking no. I can see this all happening. The dog was running up to the door. They closes the door, sits down, and my uncle chimes in, and he's just trying to brush it off. Like it's just, there's stray dogs out here in the Monte. There's animals and stuff. It's probably coyotes or just trying to explain it away. He's a big skeptic. Okay, sure, animals. Even though we're not buying it. As he's talking about that, we hear the dog at the door whimper. Like when a dog gets hit, it starts to cry. We hear the cry getting fainter and fainter. The dog is running away. We can hear it running away again. The door starts to shake. My uncle was right there ready for it. He was waiting for it. He knew it was going to happen again. So he gets up, throws the door open again. There's nothing. By that third time, we had enough. The first time was enough for me. But I was at their mercy there. My parents, they drove us. I had to wait for them. By that third time, my parents were like, "Okay, we're gonna go. We'll pray for your kids." I don't know if they came up with the game plan or what the conversation was, but I was in escape mode. I was ready to get out of there. But also, that meant that I had to walk outside to the car, which I didn't want to do, because I don't know what's out there. Something's out there terrorizing us. And I think I just remember running to my parents' van and just jumping in and ready to go, and I've never been back to. That house, since that happened, that is definitely one of the biggest contributions to my interest in the paranormal. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why. I started my own podcast about the paranormal. On my show, it's called Sususto, and I tell scary stories from the folklore of Latin, American, and Hispanic cultures. Because aside from that one experience, I heard so many stories about lechuzas and L.A. Llorona, chupacabras El Cucuy, and so you can imagine, when this was happening that night, all these kind of legends, these monsters, they're running through my head. And I'm just going through this Rolodex of, okay, which one is it? Which one is it? Which one's coming after us right now? That moment in my life was a big, I think, contributing factor to starting Sous Chef. You know what, I really haven't told this story too much. On my own show, I think I've mentioned it a couple times, but I haven't gone into such great detail retelling it. Now I'm thinking about, I don't think I've ever had a real conversation with my parents about it. It was one of those things where it happened, and we just didn't really talk about it. I don't think any of us wanted to remember it. That's why I'm like this now. Share a story with our community by going to True. Scary story. Calm and tapping on the I have a story button. And we'll get in touch ad. Free versions of the show are available on Scary Plus. Calm and you can get in touch with me over on Instagram as Edwin Cove. That's EDWINCOV. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it scary, everyone. See you soon. Everyone, see you.